Entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. The Breeders' Academy proudly presents Bred to Perfection with Kenny Troiano, a show for serious breeders.
Whether you are looking to create a new strain or simply improve an old one, you have come to the right place.
Daddy, I want more chickens.
Oh, boy.
Now, here's your host, Kenny Troiano.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bred to Perfection. My name is Kenny Troiano, and this, my friends, is the podcast devoted to helping you become a better breeder and taking your strain to the next level. That's right, my friends. It doesn't matter if you are brand new to breeding or you've been breeding for many years. There is something all of us can do to improve our fowl for future generations.
Dad, are chickens waterproof? Because unless they're ducks, I think they're gonna have a real problem.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders' Academy, and I'm here with my co-host Nancy and my co-host, the injured and broken Frank Bradley. Oh. We're going to try to keep this one short today because he hurt himself.
Yeah, I had a head injury, not that I already didn't have that anyway, but I've just got another one to add to it.
So what was it like taking a week off? We gave Frank a vacation.
It was interesting. I think Amanda had more fun than I did. I thought I was going to have to pick her up and bring her back home. She didn't want to leave. But I guess I'm getting old. I used to when I was young. I'd go out like that, be away from home, and be fine. No backlash whatsoever. Man, I was glad to get back home. I was worn out.
Yeah. It felt weird not doing a show.
It throws your whole week off. It doesn't feel like your week has been accomplished without doing a show when we don't do one. It's just something odd about it.
Yeah. In the morning, I don't remember what I was doing, but Tanya comes up to me. She goes, "Shouldn't you be getting ready for the show?" Because she knows I have a regular routine. I go, I forgot that we weren't doing the show. We're taking the vacation. But it was nice to take a week off, but it did feel weird. I'll tell you one thing, though. I would like to acknowledge Charles Darwin. On the 12th, which is, I'm not sure what day that is. Obviously, it's not on the day we're doing the show, which I wish it was. It'd be fun to do that show again. February 12th is Darwin's birthday. They call it Darwin Day. And I like to acknowledge him because he was a big part of what we do here and a big part of my work and big influence on the Founders Program, obviously evolution. The evolutionary mechanisms really apply to the Founders Program, including natural selection, genetic drift, genetic flow, and the Founders Effect. And that's the reason I call it the Founders Program is because of that. But yeah, I was bummed because I was thinking we should do a show to celebrate it like we did. I think it was last year. We did a show on evolution, which was fun. And I was thinking about maybe doing it this time too, because those are fun. I really like talking about how evolution relates to selective breeding. It's something we'd probably do in the back end, to the point now that a lot of stuff we teach, we can't really teach on the front end. We have to teach it on the back end for our members.
Can I say something before you go on to your next subject? Okay. First of all, going back to the subject before, I didn't remember that we had a podcast tonight until 4:00 this afternoon. I'm like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to cook dinner. I'm just going to relax. And then I remembered, oh, crap, it's Friday. And then, two, how did you hurt yourself, Frank? Because I didn't hear about it in the green room.
I'm 6'3", and that's if I straighten out real good. And my dad is like 5'6", and my whole family's short. So Dad, every time he builds something, he makes it to clear his head.
Oh, no.
So we was running late on the farm today. And he had taken one of the cattle stalls and put up an overhead 2x6. And I didn't know he'd put it up there. It'd all been open for years. And we run off and let my lamp that I wear on my head. And we was in a hurry to get back for the show. And I come out in a hurry looking down at the ground. I think I might even have my phone. And next thing I know, I was laying on the ground with my feet up in the air. So,
wow.
Yeah, that wasn't and I've got an indention in my top of my head from it, a cut. Like I told Kenny, my head hurts, but it's in my neck is where I'm hurting.
You charred it.
Yeah, I guess I better call Saul and get me something started for Dad. For reckless endangerment.
Oh my goodness. You got an ice pack underneath your hat there?
Actually, I got a paper towel.
No. I'm sorry.
It happened. Kenny said, "You're the unluckiest person I've ever seen." And he's right. I am. If I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. I'll tell him.
My parents used to call me accident prone. I was always in the hospital for stitches or broken bones. I've never seen anybody get hurt like you do.
They called me to shame. MacGyver when I was a kid. You remember MacGyver, the TV show? Yeah, I made my own firearms, had my hand about blowed off with a half a pack of matches that I was using for gunpowder. I used a screwdriver to tamp it with and sparked it over. And I went around for about a week with match heads festering up in my hand. Yep. I had a rough childhood. My poor parents, I can't apologize to them enough for the medical bills and stuff back when I was a kid.
Steve says at least now you know it's there.
Oh, yeah. I'll remember next time, Steve. I promise I'll remember it next time. It's like this. I am smart enough when I pet a biting dog and it bites me the first time, I don't pet that dog again. So I guarantee it won't happen again. I'll say that and I'll forget about it again and knock my brains out again.
So this will be an easy day. We'll try not to make it too long. It's an easy topic anyways. We're going to be recording color genetics and a number of other topics with Brian Reeder. As soon as I get it put together, I'll be putting it on the website for the members. We will probably do multiple episodes. The first time I talked to him, it was almost 5 hours. We chatted. And I said, do we want to break this up into different chapters and then just do them one at a time? And he goes, why don't we just do a marathon like we did last time, get a whole bunch done, and then go back and we'll do some more later. That's how he likes to work. He doesn't slow down. After 5 hours of talking, he was not even slowing down, not even a little bit. And he's going to probably be doing most of the talking. I'll have a few questions. My members have sent me some questions to ask him. We'll be doing that. And I'm really looking forward to this because it's going to take care of a lot of the color genetic factors for the various varieties. And we're going to be able to finish the standard because I wanted to add this to the standard as well. It should be fun. Just wanted to let you know it's on the way and it'll be just for the members. After I get that done, I want to do some master's class videos on genetics. So we'll be diving deeper than we ever have in genetics, not only with Brian Reeder, but Frank and I too. And we'll probably go into evolutionary biology deeper than we have before because it'll be for the members. So those are some of the master's class videos we have planned. The other day, one of my members was asking me, is everything about the brood pen and their genetics? That was a strange question. I don't know where he heard it, but I said, it starts with the brood fowl and what you select and their genetics. But if you don't have the right brood fowl, you really have nothing. And I was thinking about it that diamonds don't come from crap.
Now, diamonds can come from coal. You can start with a bad strain as far as proportion-wise if they've got some good on the inside of them and make a good strain. But it's like this. How many years do you want to put into making a good strain when you can already buy a good strain and get there faster? So that's how I look at it. Me and Kenny, neither one started out with great chickens. If you go back and look at Kenny's and you look at mine was way worse than Kenny's one. Way worse. Mine looked like actual azels. It just shows you how far you can come with your birds over years. It's just how much time do you want to put in getting them there? That's the question I think you need to ask yourself.
It's like we say, the better bird you start with, the faster it is, the quicker, the easier it is. And when you're starting with really crappy fowl, it does take some time. Can you get there? Yeah. Just to show what Frank was talking about, this is what I started with. I show it all the time. I thank God all the time that I took the pictures when I did. This was the Adam and Eve of my family. And it's amazing that I got where I wanted to go or where I ended up going, which was this. And it wasn't by adding new blood. I never added any outside blood into this family. It was all through selection, using the Founders Program, looking for the traits that I wanted to take advantage of and exaggerate. And they came from this. Look at this hen really close. This was not a short station hen, by the way. This was a high station hen. And look where her legs are. Look how back her legs are. Because everybody always talks about the station, that it's all about where the legs are placed, where they look at the low station being really far back and then the high station really far forward. The hen, when she was holding herself properly, she was actually pretty tall, but her carriage was way behind. It was way behind. So this idea that low station, the leg position's far back on a low station bird's nonsense.
Yeah. Anybody that's bred birds, Kenny, knows that's not because just because the drumsticks is in a certain area, that doesn't signify whether they're high, medium, or short stationed as far as the carriage goes. It's ridiculous to think that way.
Yeah.
Because I've had them in every proportion that you could think of, short, medium, long. I've seen them every way.
Yeah, so that's what I would want to say is the better birds you start with, and they don't have to be related. We talk about this all the time. They just have to represent their breed and have the right traits and the right color. And then you match them up properly and you'll get there a lot faster. But I'm a firm believer you can get there with any cock and hen if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. And that's the key question, though, if you know what you're doing. A lot of people ask me, why didn't you just go buy better birds and start with those rather than start with the ones where they were so bad to you? And I said, there was traits about those birds I liked. I wanted to make them better. I did make them better. But here's the thing. I think at some given time, even the good standout birds that we see today, pure families, they once started from crappy birds. Somewhere along the line, they started from crappy birds.
I thought my birds were pretty good. Even Tony looked at him and goes, you like these? I go, yeah. And he goes, really? Okay. He always had that look in his face like, okay, but he didn't think I was going to make anything of them. This is where they were after about, I think it was like 10 or 12 years. I got them to this point. They came a long way. But Frank, you were saying, why don't you just go get new birds? The fact is, a lot of people can't afford new birds. What they have is what they have. This is what they have to start with.
And 9 times out of 10, though, Kenny, and I found this out over the years, everybody's always looking for that next best thing, that diamond in the coal, as you was talking about a while ago, the next best thing. And 9 times out of 10, they've already got it on their yard. They refuse to see what they have.
That's true, too.
And I think because it's theirs, they look over it and they put a lower value on it than it would be if it's somebody else's. And I found out a long time ago, the best birds that you'll ever own is probably already in your yard because you picked those birds for a reason.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Plus, it's on their yard. Sometimes they'll acknowledge that it has all the right stuff, but it doesn't have the right name.
That's pitiful. I see that so often. If you put a flashy name, an old legendary name with it, but it gets the likes, but you can put something on it that somebody made their own strain or working on their own strain and puts a different name on it. The likes are far and few because they don't see that flashy name, that legendary name attached to it. And I hate to say it, but it's the truth. It's a money-making tool is all that is.
We know they don't exist. The bloodlines don't really exist. They're mongrels. There's all kinds of blood in them to make them what they are. Let's get through some of the announcements real quick. I went way off tangent there. I do want to welcome the new members. Make sure you start with the Start Here pages. And let me know if you have any issues. Those start pages will get you going on the right track. For the members, we made a lot of changes to the menu. So I made it more user-friendly, easier to navigate, and there's going to be some more improvements on the way. So watch out for that. So if you don't see what you saw before, it's there. Just look around a little bit. Like the Masters Class video tab, it's under the video library, so make sure to go there. Just know that I reorganized the menu and changed a few things. But the material is there. It's just in a different place. And I'm going to make a few more changes. It's a lot easier to navigate once you get used to it. It's a lot easier to use. It's more user-friendly. I'm always looking for ways to improve the website. I'm basically putting new information on there, sometimes daily, at least weekly. There's new information going on there. For those who have been watching the live show, I want you to know about the podcast as well. Go to www.breedersacademy.com. That's the address to my free site. There you're going to see the platforms for Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. The live show's good, but I actually like the podcast because it's all cleaned up. In some ways, it's a funner show because of the way I set it up. So if you're not a member, I'd like to encourage you to join the Breeders' Academy. Again, go to www.breedersacademy.com. You'll see the tab so you can register. And if you're not a member or don't plan to be a member for a while, make sure you at least subscribe to our free newsletter, which is our Breeders' Bulletin. There you're going to get some free breeding tips, free information on breeding, free ebooks on breeding. So make sure to subscribe to that. Just go to www.breedersacademy.com. So,
real fast, Kenny, I had a Facebook friend that had inquired about joining the Breeders' Academy. And I talked to him several times about it. So finally he joined, and he got a hold of me last weekend and was rigging me. He said, if you'd have told me what it had in it, I'd have been a member a year ago. And I said, I told you it was a breeding website, all things breeding. And he's, yeah, but you didn't tell me it explained everything down to a T. He said, if you'd told me that, I'd joined a year ago. And I said, you're a member now. That's what mattered.
I see a lot of people trying to describe breeding methods, breeding programs, and they just get it so wrong all the time. If you just give it a try, check it out. Check out the programs, the courses, the information, the material. The website's really set up well. You've got the Founders Program, which is, to me, the best breeding program for creating a strain. For creating a strain, maintaining a strain, and improving a strain. It does it all, okay? I've never seen a program like this do what it does. We also have the Masters Class videos, and then we have the Members Roundtable.
You got to mention, too, all of the video archives and the audio archives are inside the website.
Yeah, if you go on my YouTube channel, I think I might have maybe 30 videos on there right now. All the others are all archived on the website, and then all the podcasts, too. And then we've done a lot of other videos. We've done quite a few Masters Class videos. We're doing more. But since Brian got hold of me and we're ready to move forward on the color genetics.
Yeah, you got to take that while you can get it.
What's that?
If he's willing, you better jump on.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I was listening to the audio that him and I did, the 5-hour talk that him and I did, because we talked about a lot of things. We talked about how we're going to do the show, the information we were going to cover. He actually went through some of the laws of genetics that he wanted to make sure we covered. And I was listening to it and taking notes and setting up my outline. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so great. People are going to go crazy over this stuff. I know a lot of people, a lot of the members have been waiting for them for a while. You're not going to be disappointed. Trust me. It's going to be really good.
I think it'd be worth the wait. I do.
We're going to be covering genetics and disease resistance. We're going to be going in a little bit to epigenetics. There's a number of things we're going to be covering. And then we're going to break down the 3 alleles that are really important. And then we're going to go into the different color varieties. And we're going to cover them one at a time. And then there's some other stuff that he knows a lot about that we're going to cover too. Whatever we don't cover with Brian, then Frank and I will do.
We talked about redoing it for, actually, after we done it, just a month or so after that, we were saying we should have done it this way, should have done it that way, and Kenny's will end up redoing it anyway. So
yeah, I really want to tackle it good for the members because it's going to be a nice complete package now between what Brian Reeder does, the standard that I have in there, and then us covering the rest of the genetics. It's going to be a real nice package on the website. There's a lot of good information on the website right now for genetics. You're going to learn a lot. It's what I felt you needed to know. It's something that I worked on a long time ago, but Brian's going to take it to a whole nother level. And that's what's going to be cool about it.
Kenny, I got a question real quick. Does some of the content apply to domestic chickens when you're talking about the color?
Yeah, we're going to cover gamefowl and domestic chickens. We're going to cover them both. I asked Brian, can we start with the gamefowl because it's the simplest? Gamefowl are actually pretty simple. They're real basic. The domestics can get a little complicated, actually. And he said, yeah, let's do the gamefowl first. That should be pretty easy. And then we'll go in and we'll do the domestics. So we're going to do them both.
Yeah, you're right, Kenny. But the domestics, when it comes to comparing them to the gamefowl, are nothing compared to the domestics.
No.
The colors that they have. Mm-hmm. None whatsoever.
Gamefowl are pretty straightforward. When you mix your colors and your color groups, that's what makes it complicated. Yeah. But the different varieties of gamefowl are actually pretty simple.
The thing that I see people doing a lot is they're mixing up the varieties. Let's do a black-breasted red and a silver duckwing and put those two together and see what we get. And then when the colors come all goofy, they're like, what happened?
Yeah, that happens too.
They're all right if they keep it that way, as long as they don't breed it. But what they do is they sell it to somebody, and then the next thing they know, is like, where's all this rust coming from all these silver grays? Yeah. I added some light red in it to improve the gray color.
I think the biggest problem is that they're starting with birds that are mixed colors, what we call off colors. That's what they're starting with, and they think they can make a family out of it, and they don't realize it's not going to get much better than that they're not going to be able to, a lot of times, fix it. But if you understand genetics, you understand the genetic factors, there's a lot of times you can fix it. Brian said it himself, that color is one of the easiest things to fix.
It's just knowing how. Same way we talk about inbreeding, same way. It can be one of the most useful tools in your breeding book. But you better know what you're doing or you're going to mess it up.
That's what I was just going to say. It's not just knowing how, it's knowing what not to do so that you don't mess it up.
Exactly.
And you'll learn that in the Breeders' Academy.
People are afraid of inbreeding because they just don't understand it, and they get themselves in trouble. They don't either do it enough, or they do it too much, or they do it for the wrong reasons.
That's the three big ones.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. This show was brought to you by the Breeders' Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl. As a member, we'll provide you with the roadmap that you will need to create a true family or strain. I urge you to check it out. You've got nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders' Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl.
I hope to see you there. So let's get started.
So today we're going to talk about having a strong desire to improve and perfect your strain. And this means you guys too, not just your fowl, but you guys too, improving your skills and your knowledge as a breeder. Frank, this starts with having the right mindset.
That's a must. The thing about it is you got to have confidence. You got to get your knowledge. You've got to do your research, because I don't care what you're doing. If you don't have confidence that you have done your research and know it good enough to actually use it, you're never going to succeed. You have to have belief in the system that you're using.
I think their mindset's actually holding them back. We can see it by looking at the difference between the members and the non-members. The members see how it works. They change their whole idea of how they're going to breed their birds. And then you look at the other ones who don't want to take the time to learn it, or they don't want to spend the money, and they just want to skirt their way through it the best they can, but they don't want to change the way they think about it. They think that the name game and the percentage game still works.
But some of them grew up with people that they love telling them all this wise tale, superstition, stuff that doesn't work. And I get it. I was one of them. I really was. My grandfather and my dad taught me a lot of good things about chickens. They did. They really did. They taught me more good than bad. But they did teach me the old wives' tales and superstitions as well that didn't mean anything. And they was taught in the same manner. So I think a lot of times it's keeping an open mind, being able to go on the outside of that box, to see things to what they really truly are. Because I'm telling you, opinion is opinion and everybody has one, but a fact is a fact at the end of the day.
I just wanted to bring this up real quick. I don't want to bring up Joel's comment, but I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. Is he used to be a member, but is no longer a member. Life kind of gets in the way. But the thing of it is there are things that he learned in the Breeders' Academy that stick in the head. And when he listens to other shows or other people, you remember what you learned in the Breeders' Academy, and you hear what other people say and you're like, no. But that's what makes me so proud of the Breeders' Academy members is they go in there and they take it seriously and they learn what they need to learn to create a strain, to be successful, to get where they want to go. And even if they're not a member anymore, they still hold on to that knowledge. That's just a point I was trying to get across.
No, that's a good one because I see it too. And I hear it all the time from the members that they listen to other people. They listen to other shows. They listen to other podcasts, different videos, and they listen to what they have to say. Because I think Frank and I do a really good job, and not only sticking with the science, sticking with the facts, but it's common sense. Here's a good one. I just thought about it. Science is not a substitute for common sense, but an extension of it. And that's how I think of it. Everybody wants to down science. They want to down genetics. They want to try to make it so it's not useful or it's not needed. Or they pick on science. They pick on genetics. And I'm like, you're picking on the things that actually matter. And it's the members of the Breeders' Academy that know that. And when you say stuff like that, you're looking bad because they know better.
Yeah. With today's social media that we have, Like I said before, guys, everybody's got an opinion, but they have to prove to me that it's fact. I've got plenty of opinions myself. That doesn't make it a fact. So when I hear something somebody's doing, do your research on it. Check it out. See if it's what they say it is, but make sure it's a fact.
I told Frank the other day, I got to quit going after people. Every time I see somebody say something, I feel like I have to straighten them out, or I have to fix it, or I have to make a comment about it. I need to back off of that. And I don't think you can do that, Kenny. When I talk to Frank about it, he always throws this right back at me. And this is what we live by these days, that the best way to show that a stick is crooked is not to argue about it or to spend time denouncing it, but to lay a straight stick alongside of it. I firmly believe that. It keeps me in check. Because people are going to say things. People are going to do things. People are going to teach things. And I just got to trust that what we're teaching here is not only fact and science, but makes so much sense that they're going to see through that and we're going to be okay. I guess my biggest fear is that other teachers are going to divert the attention of my members because we try so hard to teach them in such a way because we feel that our program works. And to us, it's the best way to actually create a strain. I don't want them to get sidelined with something else. And so we have to remember that straight stick theory. If we just keep teaching that, it's going to keep them straight. And they're going to see the difference between what they say and what we say. And I just have to rely on that, Frank. I just have to trust in that.
Kenny sent me a message about something similar to this. And as I was texting him back, he sends me a text back real fast and he goes, "Darn it, I shouldn't even said that. I know what you're going to say." And I was typing it out and sent it to him. I said, "Straight stick, Kenny, straight stick." He said, "I don't even know why I asked you about that. I know you're just going to say that to start with."
It's my instinct to want to go in there and say something or fix it because they're so wrong. And I just have to trust that what we're teaching is getting through to our followers, to our members, and that they're going to see the difference and then do the right thing.
I say it like our parents. We're all parents, and if you're a parent, you understand this. We raise our kids the best we can. We teach them the best we can.
Yeah.
And when they go out into the world, it's up to them to whether stay with their teachings that they've been taught or go somewhere else. And that's like where me and Kenny's at in the same instance. You show them our way, you prove it by science, and then if they vary off and go another way, that's their doing. We try to show them our way and the science way, but if they vary off. But you don't see much of that, though. You don't see much of it.
And it goes with what I was just getting ready to say is finding the right mentors. Having a good mentor is like having your own time machine. You have all that knowledge. And like Frank was saying, sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't, and sometimes they're diverted and they go in a different direction. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And sometimes some people just aren't ready. They're just not hearing it. They're not ready to hear it. And sometimes they go away for a while and then they come back, hopefully. And I've had a lot of people come back, which is really cool.
And you know why, Kenny? Because what they have learned in the academy stays with them for the rest of their life. So when they're out and about and they hear people bringing up the old superstitions and stuff that science doesn't back up, when they hear all the things that we tell them to not pay any attention to go this route, don't go that route. I think a lot of times they hear that and it starts making sense. So they backtrack and get back on that path again.
Yeah. I heard this the other day. The teacher's only good if his student is willing to learn. They got to keep an open mind. And I understand that not all teachers are good teachers. But if they're making sense and it's better than what you're doing, then I say follow it. Every time you find a better teacher, you just keep moving up.
We said earlier that it's common sense. A lot of it is common sense. But don't use common sense in breeding, especially when it comes to genetics, because a lot of it you can use common sense, but things that you think you can't. Just different aspects of it.
I agree with that in that if you're just relying on your instincts when it comes to genetics, a lot of times you're wrong because you just need to know genetics. Mm-hmm. But you can't guess when it comes to genetics. Genetics doesn't change. The science is the science. An allele is an allele. A gene is a gene. A chromosome is a chromosome. The genetic factors are the genetic factors. And the laws of inheritance work. But if you don't know anything about those and you're just guessing, then you can't blame that on genetics.
Give you an instance, Kenny. A lot of people, and you see this a lot. You've been in it long enough, you've seen this a lot. There's many aspects to this. I'm just giving one. They've got a low-tailed bird and a squirrel-tailed bird, a high-tailed bird. They breed them together and they say, okay, that's going to put the tails exactly where I need them. Yeah, common sense says, okay, but in genetics, it doesn't work that way.
I see what you're saying. I'm trying to think, maybe I just used the wrong word. What's a good word? I know Frank and I, we stick with the science, but we do make sense. What we say is not only driven by science and facts, but it sounds right and sounds like an old wives' tale. It is an old wives' tale. And a lot of what people are teaching these days are old wives' tales.
I look at it this way. My grandfather and my dad, when they was teaching me this stuff, and some of it was just what Kenny's talking about, they didn't do that to hurt me. They really believed it themselves because they had been taught the same way. And I think that's the link that keeps going. We keep teaching stuff that we're not 100% about. We only heard it word of mouth. And then they teach it to somebody, and it just keeps on going. And that's the reason I say, make sure that it's a fact and not just word of mouth, because that word of mouth will get you in trouble. I promise you.
Here's the thing. It's like when you tell a story in a round table with 10 other people, by the time it gets to the last person that you tell the story to, it's all mumble jumbled up. So a method or breeding practice that is from great grandfather Joe coming down to you could totally get jumbled up in the process throughout the generations.
That's true, Nancy. That's a good point. Like a cut on the bottom of the foot went to the foot being amputated, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's a good one here. Compensation does work, but it's not 100% effective. The reason it's not 100% effective is because the traits that you're working with are polygenic traits. It doesn't work like you think it works. It takes a whole different type of selection and breeding to actually improve it. So compensation works if you know what you're doing.
That's exactly what I said, Kenny.
Yeah. And it goes back to the 1/16th infusion method. It goes back to the blanket effect, where you line up two blankets and if the holes don't match up, then you fixed it. That doesn't work like that. You got to understand the genetic factors. Some are dominant, some are recessive. Some are what we call polygenic. And those are all taken care of differently. So if you have a recessive defect, the only way to fix it is to cull it. Or if you have a defect that's polygenic, then you can improve it by breeding to the highest intensity over time. And it does take time. A lot of people, that's the problem, is they think by doing compensation breeding that they should see the results of their efforts in the following offspring. And a lot of times you don't see it in the following offspring. Sometimes you see it generations down the road. And sometimes the improvements are very subtle. And so it takes many years to fix a polygenic trait, whereas when it's a dominant recessive, it's just a matter of either selecting or culling the trait. But compensation breeding, if you understand it, then you can use it. If you don't understand it, then you're not getting anywhere with it.
Amen. And that's anything with breeding. If you don't understand, it's just like line breeding. You need to understand what it's used for and the function of it, the true function of it. Because if you're thinking it does one thing and it does another, you're never going to go anywhere with that, ever.
I got a question real quick. I've never heard of that.
Compensation
breeding.
Some people could think of it as that, where they take a high tail and a low tail, breed it together, thinking they're getting some in the middle. Okay.
A blending, so to speak.
Yeah, sort of a blending, which it doesn't work like that. You have two separate traits, you breed them together, you're going to get some with low and some with high. You don't get any in the middle.
So that's what that word means for compensation breeding. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it now.
Yeah. Or they breed different performance abilities together, thinking that they're getting a blending of all of them. And it doesn't work like that either.
That's big.
Those are polygenic traits. What they're getting is actually hybrid vigor, not an improvement in the trait itself. So they actually improved that trait in the bird temporarily, but it's not passable to the next generation. So it can't be inherited. Same thing with inbreeding depression. It can't be inherited. So if you see a bird that's starting to show signs of inbreeding depression, it's not a great thing, but it's not passed to the next generation. There's ways to fix it. Same thing with hybrid vigor. Here's a good one. Like when they do a 3-way or a 4-way cross, thinking that they're blending in traits with different structures or different performance abilities, characteristics. They think they get a blending. It doesn't work like that at all.
No. Actually, they're doing a totally opposite of what they think they're doing. It's going, I'm just going to say it, Kenny, meiosis, guys.
Yeah.
Meiosis.
Yeah. If you understand
That's all I'm gonna
meiosis
say.
and the crossover event, which is big, and the distribution of gametes and how everything's recombinated, whenever you bring two birds in there, that's what you've done. You've recombinated the genes. You've changed the family forever. You didn't get a little of this and a little of that. You just changed the family. And the improvements that you think you're seeing, because it is a pretty good bump in the offspring, is only hybrid vigor, and it's not inheritable or able to be passed to the next generation. That's why when they think they did good, they think they got what they wanted in the offspring. Then they go to breed them and try to make a family out of that, and they see a huge drop, not another bump. They don't even keep them where they were. And then they wonder what happened. And so they go, oh, okay, I just bred it to the wrong bird. I'll breed it to a different bird. Again, all they got was hybrid vigor. They didn't fix anything. So
hybrid vigor alone is hard to live off of, guys. It's very hard to live off of. Yeah, Kenny hit it on the head, because you got these dynamite birds, and then you go back to breed them. Every time you breed them, it goes the opposite of what you started with. And that's the reason hybrid can't reproduce itself.
Yeah. I know what people want to accomplish. I know what they're trying to do. I know what the kind of fowl they're trying to produce if they just understood the process. Now, Joe makes a good point here, actually. He says, Kenny's way is not the only way, but it may be the quickest and easiest to achieve success in your line. I appreciate that. That's actually a pretty good comment. There are other programs, other breeding programs? Yeah. But the only thing I would say to this is a lot of the programs I see don't work. They're just made up. They're not real.
They're not whole.
They're made to look good. They're like window dressing, but they don't do anything. But what I will also say, too, that if you're thinking line breeding is a breeding program, it's not a breeding program. It's a breeding method. And a good breeding program has multiple methods within the program. And they're all placed at a certain time, at a certain length of time, for a certain reason. And I don't see that very often. All I see people is saying, oh, okay, line breeding, that's the beginning, the middle, and the end of the breeding program. They think it's everything. If they only understood that line breeding is only a small part of a breeding program. Oh, I wouldn't say small, but it's not the beginning. It's somewhat in the middle, but it's definitely not the end. There's a lot that has to be done before you line breed for the line breeding to actually work properly. And there's things at the end of the line breeding program that you need to do to make sure that it worked. That's what I would say about that. I will say that my program probably isn't the only program, but I just haven't seen very many out there that actually do it.
It's not the only program, Kenny, but every program, and I've done this for a long time, and I've seen a lot of programs laid out. But every program that I've seen other than the Founders program, you end up having to add blood to your birds to get them anywhere. With Founders program, that's the key. That's what makes it different from everything. You don't have to ever add blood. If you're selecting doing your methods right the way it's intended to do, you never have to add blood, ever.
Adding blood is usually part of their program.
That's what I mean. And that's not a breeding program. Once you add that blood, you're back from dead zero again. You've readied everything that you've worked for. With the Founders program, you don't do that. You keep the birds the same. You maintain them. You keep them to where you want to, and you improve them at the same time. Now, if a breeding program does that and it goes in a circle, the way the Founders program does, then I'm all for it. But until somebody shows me one that does, I'm still waiting.
The Founders program will help you create the strain, improve the strain, and maintain the strain forever. If you do this thing right, you should never, ever have to add new blood. Now, what I see a lot of times is they get into what they think is line breeding, and they just get it mixed up. They'll be talking about line breeding, but what they're actually describing a lot of times is inbreeding. They think line breeding is inbreeding. Or they think they're talking about line breeding, and all they're doing, actually, is backcrossing. I'm not going to say they think of backcrossing as line breeding, because most people don't know what backcrossing is. They don't even know they're doing it. But they think it's actually line breeding. And then the one I've been seeing lately that they get mixed up with line breeding, which is way off. I don't even know how they thought this. It has nothing to do with the way the line breeding program is set up, is clan mating. They look at line breeding as clan mating, or clan mating as line breeding. I've seen that one lately, Frank.
That's totally messed up. Yeah, I haven't saw that one yet, Kenny. I haven't saw that one. Yeah, that's a new one on me.
Yeah, I seen that recently where they were thinking that clan mating was a form of line breeding and it was the best way to go. And all the things that they were trying to avoid was what they really needed to do.
It has one purpose and one purpose only. It's not a multi-tool. It's got one purpose, and that's all that one method has is that one purpose, and that's it.
What's he say, Nancy?
He says the Founders program is flexible in a number of ways. It works for everyone, always. I have yet to see another complete program. I'm open ears and shut mouth if anyone knows one.
That's me. I agree.
Yeah. I've seen people try to create strains with other methods and never get there, have so much genetic diversity. they actually do the line breeding part properly, but they started with the wrong birds. They started with birds that shouldn't have been line bred in the first place. We talk about all the time, there's a lot that needs to be done. We call it the cleanup process. The first few stages of the Founders Program is what we call the cleanup process, which gets you into line breeding properly. And I don't see anybody doing that. They're actually line breeding birds that were mongrels or crosses or hybrids in the first place, and they don't understand why every generation they still have the same genetic diversity. They're not becoming more uniform or consistent in any way. And then they get to the end and feel like they didn't get what they wanted to do. There's still a lot of junk in there, and so they add new blood.
And not to mention the defects that they're protruding and making more prominent within their strain by doing so. Yeah, mongrels, and especially mongrels with defects, you take them in a line breeding and you're going to have a mess. That's going to be a bad mess.
But that was a new one on me recently, is thinking that clan mating was line breeding.
That's not even close.
Chase has a really good question. So Chase, make sure that you save that question for next week. Probably into the back. Are you reading his question?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
I'm thinking that should be in the back end. Great question.
Yeah, I agree. That is a good one.
So we'll have him ask it again next week in the back end.
Like, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up and share often.
Okay. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
See you guys.
Okay. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you again for joining us on the Bred to Perfection podcast show. This show was brought to you by the Breeders Academy, where by becoming a member, you can increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and take you and your fowl to the next level.
We can also show you how to create a strain from hybrid crosses or mongrel flocks, and help you to create, maintain, and improve your present strains. We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel anytime.
To join us at the Breeders Academy membership website, go to www.breedersacademy.com.
Best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
While you're checking out the Breeders Academy, make sure to sign up for our newsletter, The Breeders Bulletin. We provide a lot of free bonus materials and some great information that will take you and your fowl to the next level. Well, that's it for now.
We hope you join us next time for another episode of Bred to Perfection. We'll see you later.
Bye. Welcome to the after show. This is the part of the show that doesn't exist. What happens in the after show stays in the after show. If you've mentioned to your friends about the after show, which happens from time to time, no worries. Just tell them not to let out our little secret area of the show. Enjoy!
Our ancestors didn't know the difference in all these things, so to get to a solid white bird, they added everything they could get in there. So like they carry Columbian, they carry modeling, they carry a whole range of these horrible genes that I call progressive whitening. I know you've seen that in the game chickens, where the base of the tail starts turning white, and then as the bird ages, it gets more and more white with every molt.
Yeah, I see that with Spangolds.
Yeah, I hate that. That's progressive whitening. That's not modeling. And the problem with progressive whitening, it's also a long-term deleterious gene, because every time they molt in with more white, it also has more negative repercussions for the organism, because eumelanin not only colors feathers, eumelanin also, in the early chain of progression of chemical chain, it also has to do with the formation of things like organs and muscle and bone. And so every time you delete more and more eumelanin, depending on the gene, you also remove these other factors that it's doing that can have negative repercussions on the survivability of the organism. The deleterious white is one of the worst, and there are some forms of recessive white that are highly deleterious too. The reason most poultry people don't see that is they don't keep the birds until they're old enough to realize there's a problem.
Right. That progressive white, can that be considered a trigger?
It certainly is triggering. Triggers me.
Like a genetic trigger?
I'm being facetious there. I'm saying it triggers me when I see it. Yes, I guess you could call it a trigger in the sense that the more it progresses as the bird ages,
right,
the more damage it does to the reproduction of cells.
Interesting.
So over time, those birds get sickly and weak, and the problems that develops over time looks like Merrick's.
I haven't seen that yet in my birds, but here's how I see it with American games. Their first year, they barely show any spangling at all. Then they get to their second, third, and fourth year, they look beautiful. And in their fifth, sixth, seventh year, they get wider and wider to the point when they just don't even hardly look spangled anymore.
They don't have all the genes they need is the problem. None of the quote-unquote modeled versions of games have all the right genes. The only people who have ever gotten modeling right are some of the European breeders in things like Diuculi. In the Diucul, they've got that combined perfectly. What you have to get proper modeling to make them gorgeous and to make that hold, you have to have a bird that is spangled. And I'm not saying that in the sense the game people use it. I'm saying it in the sense of pattern gene, melanotic, and dark brown combined to make a spangle like a silver or golden spangled Hamburg. Once you have that, then you add modeling. And what that does, the melanotic and the pattern gene put a black, like a dam, behind the white. So the white can't get overcolored and it stays in its place. And what you end up then with is a beautiful teardrop shape with a white end. Black teardrop with a white end. And you never see that in any of the modeled versions of games. And they all go through that weird progression where it gets over-modeled as they get older. And that's because they don't have the restrictive element of the pattern there to hold it in place.
Now, here's another problem we have with American games when it comes to spangled. It's hard to breed them true in that no matter how much you breed spangled to spangled, they're still going to produce the dark red or the light red. And some of them won't be spangled. And you just can never get to a point when they're all spangled.
Right, because they don't have the right allele of the spangling gene.
Is that because they're polygenic?
5 or 6 alleles. It's just that each allele of that locus, at the MO modeling locus, have different effects, and some of them have different levels of penetrance. The one that you all have in the games is different than the one that they have in the bearded bantams and the Diucul. The one that they have in the bearded bantams and the Diucul is real consistent, and it has real high penetrance, where the one you all have has low penetrance. And so you see what looks like a quantitative spectrum, but it's actually not. I would say that it probably has to do with the way the gene is being translated. In other words, it's not really epigenetic, but when you see something with penetrance issues, you see something that maybe doesn't have the right modifiers combined with it.
If you are enjoying the show and would like to learn more, I encourage you to join me at the Breeders' Academy. By becoming a member, I can help you to achieve the competitive advantage.